Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 7 and number 8. We're actually going to kind of put these two together because the answer that we get for 7, we're actually going to use that for number 8. So we'll kind of look at these two things together. But on the test, they're actually two separate questions, but again, they're connected. So what we're doing is they give us the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. And so they're telling us that the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Because if you recall, if you think about the perimeter of a rectangle, perimeter means the distance around. So if I was going to go around, think of this as a football field, a basketball court, like the perimeter is going all the way around it. Well, so I've got two sides. These two sides are the same. And then those two sides are the same. So if you wanted to say, well, what would the distance around be? Well, it'd be that plus that plus that plus that. But since we have like terms, we combine those two like terms because we've got two L's. So that's where the 2L comes from. Plus, we've got two W's, so for 2W. So that's where the formula comes from. Now, what they're asking us to do here is they want us to solve for W. What they're saying there is that as it is, the formula, it has P by itself. P equals 2L plus 2W. And they're saying get W by itself. So what they're asking us to do here is basically just kind of rearrange some letters, move the variables and numbers around so that the W is by itself instead of having the P by itself. So what I'm trying to do then is everything that's on this right side over here with W, I'm trying to clear it out, trying to move everything away. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the 2L and move that to the other side. And because 2L, they're connected, I pick them up and I move them kind of as a package, right? So since those two things are connected there. And it's a positive 2L, so the opposite would be to subtract 2L. So I've got P minus 2L equals 2W. All right, well, I've gotten part of it by itself. Now I got to get rid of this 2. So this is 2 times W. So the opposite of multiplying by 2 would be to divide by 2. And then what I do to one side, I do to the other side. So W is now by itself. So I would have W equals P minus 2L over 2. And that's actually our answer for number 7. We haven't actually solved anything. Number 7 was just move the letters around. All right, so we moved the letters around. Now what number 8 is saying is take what you just got and then plug it in. So I'm going to take what I just came up with, and then we're just going to do some substitution here. So what it says is that the rectangle has a length of 12. Right? So we're saying that if, let's just pretend for a second that if that were 12 and that were 12. So I'm substituting that in for L, and then a perimeter of 58. So we're saying is that if you went all the way around, it would be 58. So I'm going to substitute that in for P. What we're looking for is what would the width be. So we'd have W equals 58. And actually, since I used a color there, let me use the color I used so we can keep everything in track. So 58 minus 2 times the length, but we're saying that the length, at least what they told us, is 12, and then that's all divided by 2. Alright, so let's figure out what this would be. We'd have 58, 2 times 12, of course that would give us 24. And then 58 minus 24. And I would say this, in general, is that if, this isn't mental math class, so, if you're not quite sure about something, there's nothing wrong with ever just kind of going to the side and doing some scratch work. So that would be 34 divided by 2, which would be 17. So that means our answer there would be 17 centimeters. Okay. So 2 parts to it. 7 was moving the letters around. 8 was actually then plugging it in to come up with an answer. All right, so go ahead and try 7.2 and then 7.3. All right, so should have had a chance to do that. 7.2, you get that the length is p minus 2w over 2. You'll notice it's pretty much the same thing as 7.1. It's just that since they were asking for the L instead of the W, those two things switch places. And then if you plugged the numbers in that they gave you, you would have got a length of 14 centimeters. And then if you look at 7.3, the base is equal to 2a over h, and should have got an answer of 5. Now in this one, you might have been a little bit more confused because it was a different formula, right? So the formula, area equals, and this is for a triangle, is base times height divided by 2. Well, so if you think about it, the area of a square is just the base times the height. Right? So if we're talking about if we're talking about a square, right? Then these two sides would be the same by definition. And then so what happens though if you want to know the area of a triangle? Well, notice kind of what happens is that if you cut this, a triangle is kind of half of a square, right? So you see how that's kind of half of that? So that's where we get this idea of base times height divided by 2, is that we're just cutting the square in half. So what they want us to do is they want us to get that by itself. They want us to get b by itself. So you'd have area equals base times height divided by 2. You're trying to get the b by itself there. So what you'd have to do is that you'd have to multiply by 2 to get rid of the fraction. The reason why I multiplied is because that says divided by 2. So the opposite would be to multiply by 2. And then I'd have to do it to that side as well. So you'd get 2a equals b. And then from there, right, or at least bh. And then you're trying to get b by itself, so you'd have to divide both sides by b. So if I divided by b, divided by b, or I'm sorry, we're not trying to get b by itself. We are trying to get b by itself. We're trying to get h by itself. Sorry about that. So we would divide by h, rather. And then so you'd end up with b is equal to 2a over h. And then you'd substitute from there. All right, so that finishes up with number 7 and 8. So if there was anything there that you weren't sure about, pause now, try to figure it out on your own. Otherwise, ask for some help.